The following is an AZPM original production.
For AZPM, I'm Mark McLemore, and this is Arizona Spotlight. Coming up, meet Bill Reynolds. He's the Director of Military and First Responder Trauma Recovery, known as the Red, White, and Blue program at Sierra Tucson. And listen to the premiere of a new 10-minute drama about a young man whose life is forever changed by a family secret and a woman who's hoping that science can overcome loneliness. Those stories are next on Arizona Spotlight. When we talk about mental wellness, often the group of people left out of the conversation are the ones that we think of as watching out for the rest of us, like those who serve in the military, our police, and first responders. A program at Sierra Tucson called Red, White, and Blue is offering help to these brave souls, and I invited the program director, Bill Reynolds, to tell us how, starting with a few things about himself.
I was in the Navy for 30 years, and I worked in Navy medicine. I ended up retiring in 2012. And when I left the Navy, I decided to go into working in the psychiatry and the addiction field, which is something that really kind of grew near and dear to me as my time in the Navy, ended. We had been in Iraq and Afghanistan for 20 years. I got to go to Iraq in 2004, serve with a surgical company, and I just have a lot of firsthand experience of seeing people, suffer not only physical injuries, but, obviously with post-traumatic stress, depression, addiction.
So often in our culture, we think of people who are in the military and those people who are first responders as being the strongest among us. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that stereotype can work against people when they really need help. It can be harder for them to come forward, and it can be harder for other people to take them seriously.
One of the observations that I've noticed is it takes an incredible amount just to get somebody to agree to come into treatment. I mean, that's a big thing because, traditionally as being a man, but also military, we're taught to, suck it up, so to speak. So one of the main missions that we certainly have in my program is to break the stigma. Just simply recognizing that it's okay to ask for help is a major breakthrough for a lot of our patients, and it's tough. I mean, some of the veterans and first responders out there are very, very difficult. They're very guarded. They have fears that they may lose their job, they may lose their badge, it's just a big challenge. So we really just try to normalize that it's okay to ask for help.
So explain to us the difference between PTSI and the more familiar phrase that we've all heard thrown around, PTSD.
They're the same thing. The language around, the traditional diagnosis of PTSD disorder is kind of stigmatizing in and of itself. So that diagnosis came up actually as a result of Vietnam veterans back in 1980 was when it was formally recognized. So when you couch it in terms of it being a post-traumatic stress injury, that's a little bit more palatable to people because, injuries we can help. We can help heal that. So again, comes back to language. Anything that is a disorder, we have a tendency to, people think, well, I have a disorder. I don't want to go get help. So it's essentially the same thing, Mark.
In the stressful situations that these people often have to deal with, accidents happen, and sometimes innocent people can be hurt. And that might be a more difficult thing to live with than anything I can imagine right now. We all fear when we're driving, making an error, causing an injury, but these people who are on literally the front lines of so many different situations contend with that in a much more intense way. So explain how moral injury is viewed in this field and how your program attempts to help people who may have suffered such.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a good example of moral injury that we frequently see at Sierra Tucson is some of our veterans that may have been involved in a firefight where a child was inadvertently injured. When I was in Iraq, I actually had to fly on an emergency medevac mission with a Iraqi who had actually killed one of our soldiers, and I was responsible for caring for him. So I find myself flying in this helicopter, literally, bagging him and giving him medication. even though he intended to cause us harm. So we have moral injury groups at my program, and we talk about those things, and we process those with various types of therapy. And I'll tell you, Mark, one of the biggest things is people, when they get this wound out in the open, they realize that they're not alone. So just airing it in, with my team, groups of therapists and their peers can be very healing.
What would you say about the populace that you serve at Sierra Tucson? Who generally do you find yourself sitting across the table with?
Usually veterans. We have been fortunate to get referrals from different VAs all around the country. The Veterans Health Administration, as you know, is kind of stretched to the limit with the amount of time that we were in Iraq and Afghanistan. So they have been kind enough to refer people out for treatment. So my most common person sitting across from me is a male, probably 30s or 40s, who comes in with a substance use disorder such as alcohol or sometimes opiates. But also underlying that, most always, is post-traumatic stress. I have yet to meet somebody who struggles with addiction that does not have some kind of underlying trauma or undiagnosed mental health condition. So we help them sober up and figure out what's really driving the addiction.
What about involving friends and family in the process?
Huge piece of our treatment. We also incorporate family members, typically spouses of people that come into treatment. The spouses are the ones that are often, forgotten about. But when you think about it, every time somebody goes off to a deployment or even a police officer goes on a call, that spouse is with them. So the spouse obviously struggles with the addiction of the particular patient or the nightmares or whatever. So we bring them into the fold as well.
Yeah, what you said just a moment ago about when an enlisted person goes into combat, they're taking the emotions of their significant other with them into that situation. Mm-hmm. I think those of us who have never been in a situation like that maybe find that easy to forget the significance of that emotional connection when in a stressful, life-threatening situation.
In order to survive as a military member or a first responder, you have to compartmentalize. It's oftentimes actually weighs more on the spouse than it does on the individual. Because, I know when I was in Iraq, I could not be consumed with thoughts of my wife and my kids all the time because it would be very difficult for me. But, the person on the home front, keeping the home fires burning, they're the ones that carry that stress. And, sometimes when people come back from deployments as well, and even if they share with their spouses, there's a term called vicarious trauma, where the person listening to the stories of the traumatized person can actually sometimes develop symptoms of that.
Mm-hmm. So if there's someone who's listening to this interview and they think of themselves or they think of someone they know who might benefit from this experience that you offer, what would you want to say? What can you tell this hypothetical person through the radio about what it will be like entering this program?
Asking for help is one of the most difficult things that people can do because we like to be self-reliant. We like to self-solve our problems. But that fear, once anybody is able to take that step and realize that there's a whole program of staff, of skilled therapists and doctors waiting for them that know what they're doing, changes can be made. I've seen so many people turn their lives around completely just simply by asking for help, just surrendering. There's victory in surrender. And whether that person is a military person or not, post-traumatic stress is actually far more common in the civilian population because of being raised in adverse circumstances or whatever. So just know that there is help out there. And I know it can be scary, but it's just taking that first step. It's huge.
Thanks to Bill Reynolds of Sierra Tucson's Red, White, and Blue program. If you or someone you know would like more information, there's a link on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. Remember, there's no shame in attempting to save a life, especially your own. It's writer David Layton's job to explore local history and unearth the facts behind local legends for his monthly Street Smarts column in the Arizona Daily Star. Next, Layton tells the history behind an unusual place name that people have been pronouncing in different ways for more than a century and a half.
So this one actually dates back to the days when I was in high school. Sometimes I'd go down to Nogales with friends to do a little partying, and I'd always pass by the sign that would read Sahuarita. And I'd always ask my friends, many of them who are native Spanish speakers, what is a Sahuarita? And I usually hear, I don't know, or that doesn't mean anything. But if it was Sahuarito with an O, it would mean little saguaro. So I've always been curious since the days of high school of where that name came from.
So what's the first step in this journey? How do we understand the naming of this place?
The earliest known knowledge of it dates back to about 1820. You have the brothers Tomas and Ignacio Ortiz. They petitioned for a land grant of 4 sitios, which is more than 27 square miles of land around La Canoa, what was called La Canoa. When they first appraised the San Ignacio de la Canoa land grant, describes a vast domain that stretched from Tubac to the south to El Sahuarito, with a G instead of an H and an O instead of A, where there exists a plant of this tree which remains as a landmark to the north.
This tree.
It's kind of funny, the words and phrasing like they used to put back in the 1800s, but that's actually how they described it, actually mention El Sahuarito. It was a kind of a landmark where people knew. Back in the 1800s, you pretty much only had 2 cities in what became Arizona. You had Tubac and Tucson. And the Sahuarito was essentially a saguaro, kind of an odd-shaped saguaro that was normally used as a landmark. So if you were traveling from Tubac to Tucson and you saw El Sahuarito, you knew you were X amount of miles or kilometers from Tucson. And the same thing from going from Tucson to Tubac, you kind of knew if you hit this odd little shaped saguaro known as El Sahuarito, that you were X amount of kilometers or miles from the other city.
Well, things may have changed in the terrain in the last 100 or so years, but I think about how precarious it would be to base your expedition's lives on spotting the right saguaro.
So originally a former Union soldier by the name of Cyrus S. Rice settled next to the Sahuarito, and he kept a little ranch there for a little while before he sold it to a Mr. Benedict. Mr. Benedict set up a stage stop where people traveling between Tucson and Tubac could stop, water their horses, feed their horses, and I think they also could stay for the night as well. And that's what it became known as, like a stage stop.
Yeah, that's the same way that Las Vegas started.
The next step after Benedict was an individual by the name of James K. Brown purchased the Sahuarito Ranch from Benedict, and he also not only set up a ranch, but at one point in 1882, he set up the post office in that area, and it was called the Sahuarito Post Office. By this time, it's being spelled with an H and an O rather than a G. So I interviewed his granddaughter, Olive Brand, and she told me their ranch was always known as the Sahuarito Ranch, not the Sahuarita Ranch. And she kind of laughed about it because the family never understood how it ended up to being Sahuarita when the ranch itself that the family had owned had always been Sahuarito. But in 1915, now, Mr. Brown sold off his ranch in the, I think it was 1880s or 1890s, and not much happened in that area up until about 1915. People started moving in, companies started buying up the land because the land was right next to the Santa Cruz River, which still had water in it. So at that point in 1915, they reopened or reestablished a post office, and it was named Sahuarita with an A. And since then, the post office in town has always been called Sahuarita with an A.
And it's grown a lot from a watering hole into a whole community.
To a fast-growing town.
My guest, David Layton, writes the Street Smarts column that appears on the first Monday of every month in the Arizona Daily Star. Have you got 10 minutes? Then we've got a story for you. And now a new episode of the radio play series, 10-Minute Dramas.
Chemistry by Alejandro Canelos. Character list. Lydia, a woman in her 70s. Mediator. Renee, a young man. Mrs. Foster, Renee's mother. Mr. Foster, Renee's father. Setting, a conference room. Lights up. Lydia and Mediator are standing on one side of a narrow rectangular conference table. Renee and his parents walk in and approach the table from the opposite side. When Lydia sees Renee, her legs buckle. She sets down her small handbag and steadies herself against the back of a chair. Mediator is the first to speak.
Welcome, everyone. Mr. and Mrs. Foster, I believe you know Lydia.
Mr. and Mrs. Foster wave at Lydia, who waves back. Mediator turns to Renee.
Renee, this is Lydia. Lydia, Renee. Now let's sit down.
They all take their seats. Mediator and Lydia are on one side, the Fosters on the other. Renee is between his parents.
Renee, happy birthday. I understand you turned 18 today.
Yeah.
Renee looks around, bewildered.
What are we doing here?
Mediator addresses Renee's parents.
You haven't told him anything, correct?
That's correct.
What's going on?
Mrs. Foster puts a hand on top of Renee's.
Everything's all right, sweetheart.
Let's get right to it.
Wait, this is...
Renee pulls his hand away from his mother and stares at her. His face shows terror. Mr. Foster puts an arm around Renee. Mrs. Foster moves her hand to Renee's forearm. Mediator clears her throat.
Renee P. Foster, your citizenship file has been updated to reflect...
No,
Renee shakes his head.
it can't be.
To reflect your birth status as an S1 clone.
Renee pushes his chair back, tearing himself from his father's grasp. His mother is crying.
Renee, please, wait. It's not bad.
Renee, I understand how you must be feeling. Shock, fear, betrayal. But you're safe and surrounded by people who love you.
Mediator pulls a small gray tubular device from her jacket and points it at Renee. She pushes a button. A clicking sound is heard. Renee puts a hand to his chest.
Mom,
It will help you stay present and open-minded.
Renee looks down at his chest, then back at Mediator.
I barely felt that.
Amazing, isn't it?
She puts the device away.
The newer gen equipment is very patient-friendly.
I guess so.
He scoots his chair up to the table, glances at Lydia, and grabs onto each of his parents' hands.
Sorry, everyone. I'm fine now.
I'm so glad. The rest of our visit should go smoothly.
Renee points his chin at Lydia.
Who's she?
Lydia doesn't move. She hasn't taken her eyes off Renee the entire time.
Lydia is the natural citizen who sponsored you.
Renee turns to his mother.
She paid you?
Mr. Foster shifts in his chair as if preparing to speak. Mediator puts up a hand.
Allow me, please.
Both Fosters nod. Mediator looks at Renee.
Your tissue donor, Anthony was his name, died in a transport accident at the age of 54. He is survived by his partner,
She gestures at Lydia, who's still staring at Renee.
Lydia.
Lydia was an angel for us, son, and you've had a good life, haven't you?
Renee is looking at the table and nodding.
I guess so.
Mrs. Foster is teary-eyed.
It was a beautiful choice for everyone. For you, for her, for us.
We've honored the contract in all ways, including by bringing you here today.
Renee turns to his mother.
So what happens now? Are you still like my parents, or do I...
He points at Lydia without looking.
At age 18, clones are granted the same rights as natural citizens. You're in charge of yourself.
You know this, son.
Mr. Foster turns to Mediator.
He knows.
Yeah, everyone knows, but I'm just making sure. I can get up and walk out of here right now.
Yes.
Okay.
He pauses, then looks at Lydia.
How old are you?
I'm 73.
Renee turns back to Mediator.
I've heard of this. Yeah. But I've never met anyone who,
These arrangements are rare.
Renee says nothing.
Only our most affluent citizens have the resources needed to enter into a contract like this.
Okay, well,
He looks at his father, then his mother.
can we go?
Renee, you might consider spending a few minutes with Lydia. She's played an important role in your life.
To me, she's a total stranger.
I understand. How about your parents and I step outside? You can stay for as little or as long as you like. Now that Lydia has been revealed to you, the contract is considered terminated.
Renee turns to Lydia.
What do you want? I don't know anything about him.
A few minutes alone with you is all I want.
Do that for her, Renee. I wish you would. She's done so much for us.
I agree, son. We'll be right outside.
Mediator is smiling.
I can tell you, in my experience, these visits go much better than expected.
Renee is silent. The others wait. Renee looks at Lydia.
Okay, why not?
He turns to Mediator.
How long until the micropellet starts to wear off?
It's worn off already.
He raises his eyebrows.
Really?
Yes.
Mediator turns to Mr. and Mrs. Foster.
Shall we?
She stands up. The Fosters stand up also.
Renee, stay however long you'd like.
We love you very much.
You're a fine young man.
They leave. Renee and Lydia are silent, looking at each other, until Lydia speaks.
You're almost the exact age he was when we met, to the day.
Okay.
We had 36 years together and should have had 36 more.
I'm sorry that happened.
Oh, seeing you now at last, it makes it all worth it.
Is there something you want from me?
I could show you pictures of us when we were younger, if you're curious.
I don't think so. I'm sorry. I just don't see how any of this is worthwhile.
You've never been in love.
Renee shrugs.
I guess not.
Not yet.
I'm only 18.
So was he.
Renee sits up straighter.
I'm not him.
You're not, but you are just like him in every way. What he loved, for example, you will love.
Renee shifts in his seat.
This is really strange.
You know what I'm saying is true.
Renee thinks, staring at his lap, then looks up.
So, are you going to offer me money or something?
No, unless you want it.
Definitely not.
Could I hold your hand?
She slides a hand partway across the table, turning it palm up.
I guess, yeah.
He places a hand near hers, palm down. She slides hers beneath his.
We used to hold hands this way, he and I.
Renee closes his hand around hers, squeezing gently with his fingertips. Lydia closes her eyes.
Like that, yes. Oh, you're really bringing me back.
Renee is silent, staring at their clasped hands. He looks up. Lydia opens her eyes.
May I call you Anthony?
For right now? Yeah. Okay.
Lydia smiles.
Oh, I've waited 18 years for this moment. Can you feel it?
Renee looks down.
I'm not sure how I feel.
You remind me so much of him, your sincerity. It was one of the things that drew me in. That and his handsomeness. Oh, those eyes.
Renee blushes. Lydia smiles wider.
Am I making you uncomfortable?
Yes.
He looks up.
It's okay, though.
I was his first.
She squeezes his hand.
Now you're really making me uncomfortable.
I practically had to wrestle his clothes off. But once we got going, we never looked back.
That sounds not bad.
Oh, the fun we had. He used to say I taught him, but he was a natural.
I don't know what to say about that.
Have you ever?
Technically, no. I just haven't found the right person.
Can I come sit next to you?
Okay.
Lydia releases his hand, gets up, and walks around the table. She sits in the chair next to him and helps him turn his chair. She puts a hand on his face. Renee is still, as if unable to move. Lydia leans in for a kiss.
Yes?
Not waiting for a response, Lydia puts her lips to Renee's. He kisses back, then pulls away.
I'm sorry. It's just I'm not ready for this. It's too weird.
Weird bad?
No. I can't describe it.
Lydia pats him on the cheek.
I can't tell you how happy this makes me. It's a dream come true.
Renee looks down, then up. Lydia slides her chair back.
You'll find my contact data in your file. Feel free to use it whenever you want. I hope you do, but if you don't, I understand.
I'll have to see. I don't know. It's a lot.
Lydia stands up.
Thank you, Renee.
Renee stands up.
You're welcome, Lydia.
Lydia goes around the table, picks up her bag, and returns. She pulls out a small photograph and hands it to him.
That's us during our first month together.
Renee looks at the photo.
Wow. Okay.
He looks up and sees Lydia crying.
I love you, Anthony. I always have, and I always will.
Renee's eyes tear up as he nods. Lydia gives him a peck on the lips and hurries out the door. Renee sits back down and stares at the photograph. The stage goes dark. The end.
Chemistry was written and adapted for radio by Alejandro Canelos from his book 10-Minute Dramas for the Stage. You heard Susan Clausen as Lydia, Sean Hazen as Renee, Dawn McMillan as Mediator, Betsy Cruz Craig as Mrs. Foster, and Jonathan Zenz as Mr. Foster. Stage direction read by Alejandro Canelos. Directed by Betsy Cruz Craig. Original score composed by Alejandro Canelos, produced by Mike Levy at 1111 Studios in Tucson. Listen for more coming soon to Arizona Spotlight. Thank you for listening. This show is a production of AZPM. The production engineer is Jim Blackwood. Production assistance by Alicia Vasquez. I'm producer and host Mark McLemore.
AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.